Okay, I'm down in an undisclosed location in my prepper food storage area, and we're going to talk about food preservation. And this is going to be primarily the dry foods. Now, this is going to be a little bit more advanced, but I've kind of researched all the different ways to do things, and I think I've come up with what works for me. And I'll explain, exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So, anyways, you have to think about several different things. You have to think about just spoilage. You have to think about rodents, and the main the main things that I've read about preventing rodents is one, having things inside a heavy plastic container, and then obviously keeping your area very clean. So I don't think I would ever do any food prep in here. In fact, when I do my packaging, I'm not even going to do that in this room. I'm going to do my packaging in a other room where I'm going to lay down a tarp, and so any grains or other things that might fall off the side, I'll capture that. But you want to keep this immaculate in here because you don't want to attract rodents in the first place. So the first step is getting these heavy 5-gallon buckets. That's a very good start. And then secondly, you have the mylar bags. Now the mylar bags are going to go a long ways towards the spoilage, and a lot of people will use these oxygen absorbers, so I've got some of those as well. But there's also a concern that maybe the food that you're bringing in might be infested already. They may be, eggs or other things, and the oxygen absorbers kind of help, but not 100%. So the ultimate way is to use some kind of gas to completely remove any oxygen, but at the same time remove moisture. And so some people will use carbon dioxide, and I've seen where they can take dry ice, and there's a little bit of science behind this. You have to take a specific amount for the container that you're doing. So, a 5-gallon container, I think it takes like 4 ounces of dry ice. You put that in the bottom. And then if you have, a certain size bag, you have to use a piece of that. And then you have to wait for it to kind of boil off before you can seal everything. So it's a little more drawn out. So, it's a lot of extra time, but very inexpensive way to do it. I chose to use dry nitrogen. So I picked up a tank. And by the way, you can actually get carbon dioxide in a container as well. And so I've got some data on that to show you. But I decided that and this is the largest tank I could find that without requiring a rental deposit. There are larger ones, and I didn't state that in the video the other day, but this one doesn't require a deposit, and so I've actually purchased this tank. And mentioned the other day, you have to have a regulator, you have to have a barb fitting, you have to pick up a hose, and then I recommend you get a bracket, but you could take ratchet straps or something and tie it to something like this. I did that temporarily before I put this up. And then I'm actually going to also, on the end, I'm going to put like a bicycle pump needle, because you're putting just a little bit of air in there. And so I'm going to put this with a hose clamp, and then that'll keep material from getting up into the hose. And you're going to need, a special gauge. This was a special order. It was a lower pressure gauge than what you would normally use for regulators. And so this is 30 psi, and we're only going to be using just a few psi, so this allows me to get a rough estimate how much we're doing. So just to give you an idea of the costs, the lighting's not the greatest. I just changed some bulbs here to make this a little bit easier. Maybe you can see this. So the first thing is the bottle was $229. Like I said, it's mine now. And I talk about this, not relying on utilities. In this case, I didn't want a recurring charge. I didn't want to have to take it in and get it refilled. And I'll show you the math behind this. This will last a very long time. Oh yeah, then it was talking about how much gas was in there. Well, that came with the tank. The regulator was $100. The adapter hose, so this was the barb fitting. That was $5. Probably could get that cheaper at Home Depot. Although the brass fittings are not cheap. The the bracket for holding the tank up against the wall is 23 bucks. And then I bought a fancy flashlight with the blood tracker on it. So that gives you a rough idea of the cost for this. Now, I also bought different mylar bags. And so I started with, 1 gallon. And I thought this would be perfect for like the grits. These are pretty good size bags. They're 5 pounds each. And so a 1 gallon bag would probably hold each one of those bags. But I also bought a whole bunch of quart size bags. So I've got, what did I get? I got 100 of the 1 gallon, and then I got 400 of the quarts. So each one of these packages are, a package of 100. And the mylar, the quart size, which is probably really for most things, that would be multiple servings of any beans or rice or pasta. And so just to give you an idea, they had a pack slip in here. The other ones didn't for some reason, but I'll have to look on Amazon and get the other prices. But this was $115 for, 4 packs of the mylar bags, quart size. So that's 400. That'll go long time. And again, I'm trying to do something where, if supply chain shuts down, I'm good for a long time. And then the oxygen absorbers, again, I'll have to pull that off of Amazon. I'll put that in the description. But I bought the oxygen absorbers. These are the 300 cc, and there's a table in here for 300 cc. That is meant for 1 gallon bags. But it really doesn't matter. You can use it for the other things. But each one of these bags has 75 of them. So, but I would argue with the method that we're going to use here, you don't need the oxygen absorbers. It's just belts and suspenders. When you go ahead and put the dry nitrogen in your bags and you seal it, and then you put them in a bucket, and then you put dry nitrogen in the bucket, and then you enclose that, you've got multiple levels of protection. This just helps you if you have a failed seal and you get oxygen and moisture coming back in. Now these impulse sealers, these are actually very inexpensive, and I went overkill. I bought the biggest one they had. It really didn't cost that much more. And these are very, very simple. They'll last a lifetime. And I was surprised they even sent me another heating strip with the thing. So that was nice. Another feature I meant to talk about. Buy your mylar bags with the, what do they call it? The Ziploc. And that's what I did here. These quart-sized bags all have Ziplocs. So I haven't tried it yet, but I'm assuming I can seal the top part of this. And then later, when I go to open it, I'll still have a Ziploc seal. And then one more thing is make sure you buy these things. I've talked about this before. Sam's Club carries these. They're relatively inexpensive. They're, maybe $4 a piece. There's 2 in a package, so $8 for 2 of them. And then you have a nice visual display of what's in the container when you open your Ziploc bags. And like say we have a thing of grits, we're going to go ahead and use our grits. We'll dump it in this container, and then we can, see what we got, and we can tell if it gets infested. Plus we keep it isolated if it does have an infestation of some kind. But those are heavy duty plastic containers. They're pretty much rodent proof also. All right, so that's kind of where I'm heading. I'm going to go ahead and get everything set up now, and then I'm going to experiment with this, and then I will do a video to show you the results of how it's working out. But one of the things, you can also buy these bags with where they stand up, so they have a particular bottom on them. Almost like if you've seen the taco shells now that stand up, oh, boy, I'll never go back after using something like that because it makes it so easy. But I'm probably going to need to make a little holder, because I'm not going to fill one bag at a time. I'm probably going to set something up to where I can fill multiple bags at the same time, because if I got a 50-pound bag of rice, I don't want to do it 1 quart at a time. I'm probably going to set it up where I can do 10 quarts or something. And anyways, and then one more thing, just give you a heads up. When you're filling these 5-gallon buckets, don't put all rice in just one bucket. Mix it up. So you have a bucket with some rice, some beans, some pasta. And if you do all your buckets that way, if something does happen to one bucket, you haven't lost your whole supply of whatever that was you had in there, because now you've got diversity. So a lot of these are not my ideas. They're just things I've gleaned from other people and comments and things. And so I want to just pass those on because I think those are best practices. Okay, so trying to keep everything 10 minutes. This is step 2. I've got everything ready. Got a few more things. Like I said, I got to build a little stand, but I'm going to now put the whole thing together, and then we'll go from here. But I'm also going to share with you the there's some information that comes with, from Pack Fresh, but there's also some excellent resources I found from LDS, and there is huge risk with you trying to do things for long-term storage. Botulism is one of them, and so we want to make sure we do everything possible so we don't fricking kill ourselves, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. If you don't do some of this stuff, canning and other things, you could, best case, get really sick. Worst case, kill yourself or somebody else, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to take the best science and we're going to apply it and make sure we are safe. All right. I should also mention I got my assistant Dougie here. He's kind of chilling out, saying, when are we going to play? All right, I hope you're having a great day. I hope everybody's treating you well. Remember, do the best you can, and God bless.